Hello, Internet. Welcome back to my summer 2019 box office recap. It's Adam Malik Aaron. So last video, we went through all the movies that I thought were successful in summer 2019. Now, we're looking at all the movies that I thought only did middling business, or as it says in the title, meh business. Movies that I don't consider real successes, but I don't consider real flops. So they're in this weird, strange middle ground, which honestly no movie should ever want to be in. I mean, you definitely don't want to be a flop, but being in the middle ground really isn't much better. You always want to be a success. I mean, the people making these movies don't want these movies to flop, at least not intentionally. And I know some of these movies on this list will make you mad. You may not agree with me. And that's fine. But if you're going to whine and whine and whine about it, listen, this is my channel, my opinion, and if I hurt your feelings, that's just too bad. And also, this video is going to be quite short, especially compared to not just the previous video, but the video that's going to be coming out after this. In that video, I'm going to be discussing all the bombs of summer 2019, and that video is going to be a whole lot of fun to make. And it's going to be very, very long. So, let's get to it. The first movie on the meh list is Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs Shaw. And I know what you're going to say. But Malik, it made $750 million worldwide on a $200 million budget. How is this not a success? And look, in isolation, this is a very, very, very good number. And I'm not denying that. But when you compare it to the other Fast and Furious movies, it's weak. And I'm about to show you. So here are all the Fast and Furious movies so far. All 9 of them at this point. Hobbs and Shaw is directly in the middle. Beneath it are all the movies pre-Rock. And above it is all the movies, that where The Rock came in, and Furious 7 is where Jason Statham came in. So yeah, it's kind of disappointing that Hobbs and Shaw leans more towards the OG Fast and Furious movies in terms of box office rather than the new ones. And I thought in my original prediction that it would at the very least, match Fast 5 because from what I remember, people really like these two characters portrayed by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Jason Statham. Many people say they're the highlight of these films, and so I thought that people like these guys, and seeing the two team together seemed like a brilliant move. But I was wrong, apparently. Couldn't even match Fast 5. Couldn't even match Fate of the Furious. And in terms of inflation, it's actually worse. It's the second lowest. The only movie that did worse was the last Fast and Furious movie that was considered a spinoff, and that was Tokyo Drift. And that was the only real Fast and Furious movie that was didn't have any of the original cast. I mean, sure, Vin Diesel made a cameo at the end, but it really doesn't count. And worldwide, it's a bit better, but not that much better, especially compared to Furious 7 and Fate of the Furious. Both made over $1 billion. In fact, they made $1 billion overseas alone. This movie only got to not even 600. So that's also pretty poor for franchise standards. And people are going to be like, but it's a spin-off. Wasn't treated like a spin-off. In fact, I heard many people comparing it to some of the Mission Impossible movies. But if we look at those, I'm about to go to those real quick. The Mission Impossible 6. Well, it did worse than Mission Impossible Fallout. Right? And even compared to some of the recent, Mission Impossibles, starting from 4, it made less than all those. So, there's no real excuse for Hobbs and Shaw not doing as well as it should have. And I know the underperformance of Hobbs and Shaw definitely puts a smile on Vin Diesel's face. But he has his own test, Fast and Furious 9, which doesn't have The Rock or Statham in it. And if that movie underperforms, then hopefully that means that, The Rock and Vin will stop this petty feud and realize that they need each other in order for this series to go on. That's what I'm hoping. So yeah, that was Hobbs and Shaw. What's next? Rocketman. Again, people are going to be like, but Malik, it made $194 million worldwide on a budget of $40 million. How is that not a success? But here's the thing. Less than a year ago, there was like this small little movie. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's kind of niche. Not many. I don't think too many people saw it. And that movie was called Bohemian Rhapsody. The movie about Queen and Freddie Mercury. And that movie just destroyed the box office. It opened at, actually, let's look at it. There it is, number 1 on biopics and music. It opened to $50 million, made over $200 million domestic, and a godlike $900 million worldwide. No other music movie, or at least, some musicals have surpassed that, but a musical biopic, no musical biopic has even come close to that amount. And, Rami Malek, who portrayed Freddie Mercury, won the Oscar. So that's an undisputed success. And you can just tell that Paramount won some of that Bohemian Rhapsody money. So they kind of positioned it as similar to that. Because both are based off, famous musicians. Well, not musicians. Famous faces in the music industry. And both are part of the LGBT community. But here's the difference. Bohemian Rhapsody's ad campaign didn't focus on the LGBT thing. Didn't focus on that at all. Instead, it focused on the music. Meanwhile, Rocketman did the complete opposite. In a lot of interviews, while the movie was coming out, they like to proclaim, "Oh, it's so LGBT and stuff. It's so woke." That thing, that word you've probably heard at least 5 times a day online. And it also had a late May release, which is a bit more prime than, well, that kind of depends. Depends on the type of movie. It's about as big as, Bohemian Rhapsody's November release. And also another thing, Rocketman was rated R. Bohemian Rhapsody was rated PG-13. Therefore, Bohemian Rhapsody was able to get a much larger audience than Rocketman ever did. And Rocketman, when compared to Bohemian Rhapsody, only made a fifth of that movie. So that looks really, really bad. And so the only thing Taron Egerton can hope for is that he wins the Oscar, but I doubt it, because there might be some very strong competition, so his chances are not too high. So that was my thoughts on Rocketman. What's next? Annabelle comes home. And I know what you're going to say once again, but Malik, it made $226 million. It was very cheap. How is this not a hit? Let me show you again. Just like Fast and Furious. Exactly like Hobbs and Shaw. For franchise standards, it was weak. Because the Conjuring series, as you see right here, before this was remarkably consistent. It was remarkably a strong performer. Starting with The Conjuring, and then Annabelle, then Conjuring 2, then Annabelle Creation, then The Nun, which was actually the biggest film in the series. And then Annabelle Comes Home. You'd think after Annabelle Creation was such a surprise hit, considering how terrible the first Annabelle was, you think because of Creation's success, it leads to success for Annabelle Comes Home, right? Wrong. Annabelle Comes Home is dead last in the series, making less than the original Annabelle, which looks terrible. Even worldwide, it's dead last. So, considering its small budget, I can't call it a failure. You just can't. But I can call it a disappointment. Because the series, again, was so consistent with success, and then it just kind of tanked. So that's a really, really bad sign for Conjuring 3, which is supposed to come out, I think, next year. So, yikes. And Warner Brothers, they desperately need some hits, because we're actually going to be talking about them quite a lot in the next video. And you're going to see why. But until then, we're going to continue with this. So what else? We already talked about Scary Stories, Angels Fallen. Intruder came out in early May. I guarantee you many of you forgot this movie even existed. I don't blame you. I mean, for the small little movie it did fine. Just fine, nothing else. But considering the fact that this is Sony Scream Gems, who are known for making these type of movies like No Good Deed and The Perfect Guy, this is weak. Very weak. Couldn't even match those. It also didn't help that it was going head on with Endgame's second weekend, which was a humongous mistake. And so it probably lost a bit of money. It probably would have done better if it just opened in that mid-September spot that No Good Deed, Perfect Guy opened in. It probably would have made a bit more money. But at the same time, it would have gotten crushed by It Chapter 2 and Hustlers. So, maybe this movie just didn't have a good release date at all. Either way, this movie is just meh. It just did bland business. It did quite weak, in my opinion. So that's The Intruder. Next up, The Hustle. Not related to Hustlers. Completely different movies. And also, one movie has obviously made more money than the other. Take a guess at what that movie is. So, The Hustle. When I first made my prediction for this movie, I honestly did not give a single crap about it. I don't think most people gave much of a crap about it. It just looked bad and bland and just bland. And that's exactly the type of box office it has. Very bland box office. Only $35 million, which is really weak for a major comedy like this. It's pretty darn low. But it did somewhat okay. Actually, it did more than okay overseas, making $95 million total. And the budget, I think, was like $30 million, something like that. So I have to put it squarely in that middle category because it's not a failure, but it's not a real hit either, especially in the States. In the States, it's a miss. But overseas, saved it from going into bomb territory. So, yeah. That's The Hustle. And the last one on this list, Child's Play. The Child's Play remake. Again, this movie is very cheap. $10 million, made $29 million total. So it's obviously made some profit. But considering the fact that this whole movie's ad campaign was just taking shots at Toy Story 4, thinking, it was going to be such a big deal. Like, ha, look at us. We're crapping on another movie series all about toys. And then in the end, Toy Story 4 eviscerated Child's Play at the box office. Even compared to other horror remakes, this is really low. This is nowhere near Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and sure as hell isn't an It or a Halloween. It's nowhere near those movies. Not even close. So again, because of its box office and low budget, I can't call it a flop, but I'm not calling it a victory either. Because again, its box office is weak for a horror remake. And that's it. That's literally all the movies that I got for the meh category. And the reason for that is because this category was, doing when I was in the planning phase of these 3 videos, originally I was just going to do 2. Winners, losers, and that's it. But for some of these movies, it was so hard to decide that if it was a winner or a loser that I just said, screw it, I'm making a whole new category for movies that I don't consider either a winner or a loser. And bam, the Met category was born. And that's why these 6 movies are in this category. So let me know what you think about my picks. You know, I know I'm going to trigger at least one person with this. I just know it. So yeah, let me know if you've actually seen any of these movies. So next video, the final part of this trilogy, I'm going to be talking about all of the failures, the disasters, the flops of summer 2019. And my God, there are so many. So many. I don't know how long that video is going to last. It's definitely going to be longer than this. It may even be longer than my first video. So, yeah. That video is going to be real fun to do. Hope you're really looking forward to it. So, yeah. Make sure to subscribe. Like this video. Leave a comment. If you want to go see the previous video. It's just called, the successful movies. Well, actually, the way these titles are going to work is I'm just going to be like, Summer Box Office Recap Part 1, Part 2, Part 3. And each of them I'm just going to call it, put in like little parentheses, the good, the meh, and the oofs. That's what I'm going to do. So you want to go see all the successful movies of summer 2019. Just, I don't know how to end this. Ugh. You can just check that out. If you want to go check out past predictions I made for these movies, go check those out. Put them in 2 playlists, the blockbusters and the not blockbusters. And that's pretty much it. And yeah, that is all. And I am out.